a fireside chat on revolutionizing sourcing and supply chain with the power of virtual twin technology. Now, to spearhead the session, we have with us Praveen MYSORE, Industry Consultant Director, Dassault Systèmes India. In fact, he's been associated with Dassault Systèmes since 2002, and before joining, he was also working with Mahindra Mumbai as a press tool designer. So I'm going to be inviting our session moderator, Praveen MYSORE, on stage so that we can together invite our speakers as well. So please put your hands together. Firstly, let's welcome Mr. Praveen MYSORE. Yeah, Zordar Talia. Come on, let's hear it. Ladies and gentlemen, he's someone who comes with an industry experience of 27 years, having worked with L&T, Maruti Suzuki before joining Mahindra and Mahindra. We have with us Ritesh AGRAWAL, Senior Vice President and Head of Sourcing, Mahindra and Mahindra. So let me please invite Mr. Ritesh AGRAWAL on stage. Our next speaker. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, during his 30 years of career span with L&T, he's had the opportunity to work through the complete value chain of the submarine business. We have with us the Vice President Defence, L&T Defence, none other than Pankaj CHADHA. And our final speaker is a result-oriented professional with 25 years of experience, having demonstrated capabilities for charting strategies for new products and new technologies. May I please invite Dnyanesh DANDEKAR, Senior Vice President R&D, Sharda Motor Industries Ltd.
Thank you very much. So today we are going to have a very interesting topic discussed. That is sourcing and supply chain management. Sourcing and supply chain management domain has evolved greatly over the last 2 years post-COVID event. We all witnessed huge challenges in this space. Some of them are spike in the market demand, escalation of the cost and prices, and also supply disruption itself. Today, many companies thought of entire process of sourcing, digitalizing the entire process of sourcing and supply chain in order to build in robustness and resilience into the system so that the companies are insulated from these kind of uncertainties. We have today very senior executives from diverse segments, aerospace, where the focus is primarily on make to print and evolving gradually into engineering to order over time. And the emphasis there is primarily the one-off production or batch production. We have automotive space, which is primarily focused on getting right at the first time and being first to the market. And the production order is primarily mass production or batch production. And then we have supply ecosystem, which is working very closely with the OEMs to ensure that the OEMs are gaining their market share accordingly. Today, I'm going to discuss with them about the challenges and opportunities in sourcing and supply chain space, and I'm sure that it will be insightful for next 30 minutes. Mr. Ritesh, during time and just after COVID time, we heard a lot about the disruption in the semiconductor supplies, the electronic component supplies, and we also heard the impact with the bookings that you had for your vehicles, the launch dates, etc., on account of these disruptions. How did you navigate through these problems then? Kindly share your thoughts.
First of all, let me acknowledge with thanks your invite to this place. It's a pleasure for me to be here. And thanks, Bernard. Thanks, Florence, for a wonderful speech from all of you. It was truly inciting. So carrying on to the topic, COVID actually disrupted things to an extent that we never imagined for all of us. And for the supply chain in the automotive industry or the manufacturing industry, So for the manufacturing industry, the challenges were huge. On the supply chain, if you look at it, we had huge disruptions coming in, starting from China. There were disruptions happening in China because the COVID erupted over there. Then it migrated to the supply chain industry in various ways. Commodity inflation happened. We had issues in logistics because the container freight cost went up dramatically. We had labor issues. We had financial stress with the suppliers. We had issues in multiple ways in terms of various commodities in our unavailability, starting with the semiconductors. Nobody ever imagined that semiconductors would be in shortage. And then we came to understand that automotive is a very small pie, a small percentage of the pie of semiconductor industry. Most of it goes in the non-automotive space, in the white goods space, gaming space and all. And during COVID, what happened was that the entire semiconductors actually the capacity got diverted to the gaming industry and to the laptop industry, because suddenly what happened was work from home. And when work from home happened, even the kids wanted to have the laptops because that's how they could engage with their teachers. So what we saw was the entire capacity vanishing away. And when we came in to start the industry, there was no semiconductor around. And we were challenged to a huge extent in how to counter that as a problem, because we were not trained into it. The supply chain guys never knew how to get the semiconductors in time. So it was a huge challenge for us. But then we know that the humans are very quick to adapt. During the COVID, the software industry adapted the first. The manufacturing industry adapted. We started in a way wherein we never could imagine that we could actually work from home and still manage the operations. That was the most unique way of adapting to things. And you talked about virtual twin and so many other things. These are enablers to actually start doing things from a remote, in a remote manner. And that's how we also started to working in a remote manner and countering things one by one, trying to remove the financial stress from the suppliers. To remove the financial stress, the first thing was to get started. And then came the other things in terms of countering. But the biggest thing was flexibility. If you look at it, the underpinning aspect is flexibility of things. And who knows it better than the software industry, right? I mean, you guys were the first to actually adapt to the world of, through the flexibility of working from home, from working in a remote manner. And we came to know of some very good things like moonlighting also, which is not available to the manufacturing industry as such. But coming to it, we changed things quite a lot. We talked about flexibility. So we went into design flexibility on the chips. We went in for, the first thing on the short term was actually doing market buy. And the market buy actually came at a huge cost. A $1 chip would cost $150 to the extent of $300. But we were ready to throw the money because we had to come out up and running on the automotive front. We could not be sacrificing on the numbers, because first comes the numbers, then the others do follow. And that's why we were throwing the money at a very high space to get have semiconductors in place. And then parallelly taking steps in the form of flexibility in design, getting alternate chips in place. And for that, we were working very closely with our suppliers to give us alternate designs. We went on to engage with the semiconductor manufacturers and trying to allocate capacity for us. We started giving long-term demand to the suppliers so that they could get allocation. So that was the game about working closely with the suppliers and getting it. And look at it, how we went up in our production from 30,000 levels to what we are now at 80,000 per month. So we've been steadily growing, increasing in capacity, and today we are number 3 in the SUV space in this industry. So that's how we managed.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Pankaj, the defense segment has opened up wide to the private companies in India. This is being done to promote Make in India and also to promote indigenization to a great extent. What are the challenges and opportunities that you see with this move by government?
Yeah, hello everyone. Before I start and respond to Praveen, let me add my words of thanks to the entire Dassault team, to Bernard, to Florence, for an amazing setup over here and the kind of technology they have displayed. And I'm going to speak about it sometime during my talk. Before I respond to this question, there's a context which we need to understand. India has been following strategic autonomy as a part of its national strategy security objectives. We have seen this in the past when we were part of that non-aligned movement during the Cold War. And recently, you would have seen a lot of evidence of this during various issues which we had to tackle, Ukraine-Russian war, right? So that is the context. And if we are becoming the third largest economy in the world, that is our aspiration. We want seat at the United Nations Security Council. That's our aspiration. So how could it be possible that we depend on foreign countries for our security needs? It's not possible. But way back in sometime in 90s, we used to import a lot of stuff. There was, I think, only 15-20% value add which used to happen. And foreign exchange was a big challenge. When we import anything, in a way we are exporting jobs to the foreign nations. And most of it is in manufacturing. And we know that if we have to create jobs for the Indian middle class, for the people who are passing out from engineering colleges, diplomas, ITIs, manufacturing is one of the key requirements. For us, we have to grow there. And we seem to have missed that bus. Not only that, if we import a lot, it definitely helps in, or it depreciates our currency, and that's what we see, what is happening. So under Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who was the Secretary DRDO at that time, a committee was set up that how could we increase the self-reliance from that 30% to 70% in 2005. Now, this issue, when we had our Pokhran blast, some of you may be aware, we were put under embargo. And during the Kargil war which happened, at that time, this need for self-reliance was acutely felt. But what happened, a lot of committees were set up. One of the committee was the Kelkar committee. And one of the recommendations, they said that country needs whole of the nation approach, where all constituents, whether it is DRDO, whether it is DPSUs, MOD, the government, and including the industry, they have to come together. Because even when we were at 2005, we could not achieve that 70% objective of self-reliance. And when I say 70%, that means if we are spending 100 rupees on our defense capital expenditure, the 70 rupees should be done through the Indian value addition. And the challenge was not only spending money. We were not having any, as an Indian industry, whether it was DPSUs, we were not having any IP rights. We didn't have any design rights, which means everything was being produced under license. And we could produce a fixed number of those defense equipment. Tomorrow, if we to pursue our strategic policy of helping our friendly nations, if we want to export something, we don't have that capacity. So this is the kind of background. So that's where this government has taken now several actions, and you see that whether it is a Atmanirbhar Bharat, Florence talked about Make in India policy, and opening up the whole sector to the private industries in 2001. Then enabling DRDO and industry to collaborate, giving level playing field. Now, government has made it mandatory that if we spend 100 rupees on defense capex, almost 70 rupees has to be done in India. That is the important thing. It has to be made in India. And it doesn't end there. Even if we are importing something, the whole focus is on creating IP design rights by Indian companies in India. And I think that is where this whole privatization policy is kicking in. And it has opened up plethora of opportunity right from the big industries like us to MSME, SME. And I'm sure some of you who keep track of the stock market, you would have seen all those companies who have invested in defense or associated with defense, their stocks are on fire. So I think that is my response to Praveen. Thank you so much.
70% of the given product items are getting made in India, and also there is an emphasis being given to the IP, getting developed within India. Over to you, Mr. Dnyanesh, which is from the supply chain ecosystem. And we all know that typically the suppliers are always under constant pressure for costing and also the quality delivery. Just post-COVID, we saw escalation in the input cost significantly. And also the competition got very tough in that space. How did you navigate through these problems and what was the outcome?
So first of all, thank you so much for this forum. I think this is nice to be here, pleasure to be here. Thanks to Mr. Barnard. So look at like COVID. So COVID, we heard one terminology called social distancing. So my point of view, we were never socially distanced. We were virtually distanced. Socially, we were always connected. We were connected with our customers. We were connected with our suppliers. We were connected with our employees. And we are talking today a lot about the virtual twin. I think that's where tier one supplier or we invested a lot in 2020 on virtual technologies. May it be a communication, may it be a product design, may it be a product validation. So those are the areas we invested a lot to be connected with our supplier as well as our customers. Second, I think domestic supplier, if you look at, most of the tier one are date free, and our competition is always with global players. And particularly in our domain or our area, both our competition, they acquired a company bigger than them. And they virtually landed up in a trouble because their financing cost has gone very high because the US interest rate has gone up. So we saw that as opportunity to connect with our tier 2 and tier 3 to make our own investment and support them. I think that's where our OEMs also supported us. Now, next point, I think to be more sustainable, we as a country, we need to think about our tier 2 and tier 3 because their financing costs, their way of economy, their manufacturing capability, capacity, we whole cycle we need to look at. And Sharda Motor, we looked at that. We backward integrated some of the tier 2 and tier 3. We started manufacturing in-house and we supported for our tier 1 plants. So this is how we responded to the COVID situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dnyanesh. That speaks of backward integration, going back to the tier 2, tier 3 level, and then trying to see how to offer that value in that value network space. Mr. Ritesh, sourcing and supply chain involves multiple facets. It involves ensuring the suppliers are delivering to the engineering specification, and also you communicating to the suppliers in time on any design changes that may occur, collaborating very closely with them all through, and ensuring the timely supplies, timely deliveries from them, especially for the new products, because your launch dates would be aligned with that, basically. So multiple things, even going forward once the new product is launched, to ensure the consistent supply, quality supply from the suppliers. So multitude of challenges, okay, multitude of requirements associated with this. How do you envisage the role of technology in addressing these challenges?
At Mahindra, with the change of leadership, we brought in a lot of strategic initiatives at our workspace. And all those strategic initiatives were actually to the purpose of increasing the speed to the market. The purpose of increasing to the speed to the market was basically to increasingly increase our production rates. Can you get them to this one? Let's be here. So purpose was to increase the speed to the market. We took a lot of strategic initiatives at the engineering front, from the engineering till the market space, because that's how we could gain space in terms of market share. So for that, the initiatives were in various stages. First was at the engineering front itself. The change was, can we do changes in a live design platform? Idea was that when we are moving from the designing space to the styling space, we should be working on one design so that we do not have an issue of redundancy in the design. And for that, we took up the 3D experience platform in which we transformed from the KTR that we were already working on, so that we are always working on the current design at any point in time. Idea was to also collaborate with the suppliers at the same time, and hence this 3D experience platform gave us a very good platform on which we could share the design, collaborate with all the stakeholders between the designers, the styling guys, and the suppliers, so that we were always working on a live design. That was the first strategic initiative we took. The second was how to collaborate with our suppliers on the development front. Here we embarked on another journey, which I'll talk about later. The third space was on the manufacturing front, where we could use a virtual twin so that we were always first time right. Now going on, to the development front, we embarked on a digitization journey from SOR to APQP, which means from the digital design stage itself, we wanted a digital designing to happen, a digital communication to the suppliers on the functional parameters of any product that we wanted. If the start is digitized, then we can continue to the digitization journey till the end. That was the idea. And this particular platform, we've been able to customize quite a lot. We are in the journey of going live in 1 or 2 months now. One phase has already been gone live. The remaining phases are going to happen in the month of October and November. But the idea is to create a digital layer first. And in creating the digital layer, we've gone from the design stage to happen in terms of digital platform. The other one is the quotations from the suppliers in digital, going to the code synthesis, going to the vendor onboarding, and then the final development monitoring on a digital platform. That's the idea which we undertook on the 3D experience platform, to collaborate with the suppliers, having a strong compliance, having a strong revision control, having a very strong digital continuity from SOR to APQP. So that was the idea which we undertook with the suppliers on this particular platform. That addresses the second part of the question. And the third was, in terms of having, on the manufacturing front, how do we go first time right? How do we do very fast? Because we are in an expansion mode at Mahindra. We wanted to go from 6K to 10K on our flagship models. We wanted to launch our electric platforms as soon as possible. At the manufacturing front, we have probably the least amount of time to industrialize. So when we are doing this, it's important to be first time right. And to do first time right, technology enablers coming from Dassault helps us a lot, because a virtual twin helps us to understand what the issues are going to come when we are actually going to do it physically. So we are able to cut short the time and able to deliver very fast on that.
Thank you, sir. Primarily, digitizing the entire process, onboarding the suppliers also, so that you stay connected and the design changes are communicated instantly to them, and getting everybody to work together in alignment is the key for this flexibility and sustainability here. Mr. Pankaj, with the shift in the model from make to print to eventually engineering to order, and now we also hear a lot about co-development with defense PSUs and DRDO labs. Okay. How do you see the technology has a role to play here? And what are the challenges and opportunities there again?
Thanks, Praveen. So as I just mentioned, the India's need to have its own products, to have our own IPs, our own designs. So earlier what used to happen that most of it was under license, so it was built to print. If I give you an example, like we did our K9 Vajra gun, that was the first largest order to the private sector to manufacture 100 guns. So it was under license. And we have to take permission to build 100 first gun. If we want to support again some other country, we can't do that. HAL has built Sukhoi. It's again under license. Majgondok has built Scorpion under license. So this whole thing has to change. Why it has to change? There is a sense of urgency because India has been confronting almost 2.5 front war. And all of you know about it, whether it was Galwan or Balakot or whatever, those things are there. And just imagine that our northern neighbor is spending almost 4 to 5 times of its defense budget or money on its defense budget as compared to India. That is a very large gap which we need to really be sensitive about. And that's where Indian industry has to mature. DRDO is doing exemplary work in producing research on some key technologies and how Indian industry and DRDO can come together. DPSUs, government has invested so much money in DPSUs, and the entire defense market size is very large, the pie is very big. So the question is, if we have to scale up, how could we collaborate with each other to not only attend to Indian requirement as well as to the world requirement? That becomes a key. So the government is playing facilitating part, as I mentioned. You would know that in 2018 they started something called as a IDEX, which is basically to promote. It was a platform to promote innovation and excellence. And private sector, even DPSUs, they have been adopting technology at a very, very fast pace. So we have shipyards who are collaborating with each other using PLM solution. Because let's say that 7 warships are to be built, 4 are being built at one place, 3 are being built at some other place. So it is being done through PLM, like my fellow panelists said about the collaboration. We are working on the light tank with CVRD, again using the technology. And the best part is technology is moving from the civil space to the defense space. So whether we speak about artificial intelligence, machine learning, virtual reality, augmented reality, all these things are, moving to the defense, and companies are really investing in a big way. And you also know that the nature of threat is changing very, very fast. So we are having cyber warfare, bio warfare, and et cetera, et cetera. And you've seen even during Ukraine-Russia war, what kind of technologies are at display. And we are facing this gray zone warfare. So this technology is enabling us to do things faster. Indian government, what it wants, that if somewhere in the world we have done or produced something in, let's say, X unit of time, how could we do it in perhaps 0.6 or 0.7? That's the kind of message which comes from the highest office here. Coming back to L&T, we have been, of course, with Dassault for last 25 years in the warship building. We have been using their PLM software. We have recently used their 3D experience platform, and we could cut down the cycle time from start to end. I'm sorry, I can't talk about those platforms which we do, almost by 60%. And first time right, that was the best part of 3D experience which we learned. So, we use this whole platform right from conceptualization to the after-sales support. And whether it is our workmen, who are, some of them are just 10th pass. The system is so user-friendly that no paper gets used in the complete scheme of things. And we see the same thing happening across the ecosystem. The other companies also, I'm sure they are doing the same. And that's why, the cycle time is coming down, the costs are coming down, and I think the user satisfaction, as far as our armed forces are concerned, it is going up. So that is how the technology has been enabling us, to do things much, much better as compared to earlier years. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So multiple aspects that you spoke of, collaboration, machine learning, AI, and even extending it to the shop floor where the workers are actually enabled with the digital technology to perform their activities. Mr. Dnyanesh, from the supplier point of view, it's always important to ensure that your vendor scores in the eyes of the OEMs are very high. And you have to be very competitive with your bids and ensure the timely supplies and quality supplies, etc. What is the role of technology that you envisage that it would play here?
Definitely. So I think my customer is sitting just next to me. So with his permission, I would like to share one example. I think Mahindra has a very nice process about supplier assessment. They called SBCB, that is Supplier Business Partner Capability Building. And they have that 4 pillars in that process. So one of the pillar is technology pillar. Other is like leadership, and then 2 more like about supply chain. And this gives the direction and some guidance. What is the expectation of our OEMs or customers as a supplier? And that enable us to go to the management that what is our customer expecting and what kind of technologies we need to adapt to support our customer, to enable our customers to be in a long-term sustainable way. It's not something we invest today and after 3 years we are not improving, we are just staying there. But that continuous improvement is also critical. Second, I think with this, the tools like 3D experience. So when we are working with our suppliers to score high, delivering a product, optimized product without compromising the quality, because nowadays customer choices are very evolving, not our customers but end users. Their choices are evolving and meeting the quality, no one is going to compromise. And for that, the technologies like we are using 3D experience, those are real enablers because right from the product development till our all manufacturing plants can access the real-time data, what we release as a drawing. And that is helping us reducing our prototype development time and even the manufacturing. So this is how we are scoring high on the customer requirements.
Thanks for that. The digital thread, right from the engineering to manufacturing is the key here. Mr. Ritesh, with the complexity of the market dynamics, government regulations that are coming in, which are getting tough and tough every day, and also the foray of green mobility. So these are new dimensions that are adding into the world actually. And how do you see the supply chain space, sourcing and supply chain space is going to evolve in the coming years? Slide, please.
So, as the slide comes up, Mahindra has been a vanguard on the sustainable initiatives in the automotive industry. Like other companies like Reliance, where I've also seen the declaration on carbon neutrality, Mahindra has also declared that by 2040, Mahindra will be carbon neutral. And to be carbon neutral, we've taken a lot of initiatives in the sustainability space, starting from carbon pricing to usage of renewable energy. In the renewable energy space, in consuming the renewable energy, we are at 30%. 30% of our consumption is on the renewable space. We are working a lot towards greening our supply chain also in terms of using repackageable stuff. We are already water positive in all our manufacturing plants. We are greening our earth by planting trees. We are taking so many initiatives over there. Most of our plants are zero waste to landfill. That also initiative has been taken. So from that perspective, from a consumption angle, we are working very fast to green our plants in terms of reducing the pollutions and emissions. Now coming to the scope 2, scope 3 emissions, which is about greening the ecosystem more, both from the inbound side and the outbound side. On the outbound side, we've already declared our electric portfolio. So we'll have electric vehicles coming in from next year onwards, which are born electric. We already launched an electric vehicle this year. So we are very mindful of the initiatives which have to be taken towards reducing the carbon footprint, and that's how we are bringing in electric vehicles very fast to the market, and that's how we are looking at technology enablers to do it. The other one is on the supply chain front itself, where we are looking at working with the suppliers to reduce their emissions. There are now regulations which we have to work with for our suppliers in terms of assessing what the carbon footprint they have, and we are working with them also to use renewable energy and to reduce the emissions through the carbon footprint that they enjoy. We are also working on alternative fuels in the form of CNG, because we know that electric fuel is not the end of the day, end of game. It is also about using biofuel and CNG, and also flex fuel. They are as green as electric. The amount of the money that is invested in is also lesser. So we are working on all these fronts also. So that's how we are working on supply chain front and also on our product portfolio, both.
Thank you. Good to see so many initiatives towards sustainability, and also excited to hear that line of new products that are going to hit the market soon. Mr. Pankaj, given the challenge on indigenization, where you're building your IP to make it within India, and also especially the defense products are for long years, where you'll be also tasked with the maintenance ownership actually for long years, as long the products are in service. With all these things in place, how do you see the supply chain and sourcing space evolving in coming years?
Yeah, thanks. I would just narrate 3 stories from my experience and try to link with what Praveen asked. So one of the key things which I said that government is demanding, we crashed down the cycle time, we crashed down the cost, because like the moon landing which happened, and Florence spoke about the kind of cost which were involved. So we can't afford as a country to spend like some developed countries. And we have to be fast, as I mentioned, because of the threats which we have. So, and then there is a, all defense products have requirement for support for 20 to 40 years. So if you have a submarine, it is 40 years, maybe the ships will have support for 20 years. And these are like tailor-made solutions, you don't produce it in mass. So one example, when we did India's first nuclear strategic submarine, and we did these hulls at Hazira, the documentation which came from Hazira, it was, if I remember, some 2 or 2.5 truck loads. That was 13 ton of documentation, 13 ton, right? And when we did the whole thing, it was almost close to 40 ton, 40. Now you just imagine, over a period of 40 years, this 40 ton of paper documentation, how do you manage? And just imagine if there is a wartime scenario and something is required quickly, how do you get this in jiffy? Because there is a national security which is at stake, something is required, we have to track if something goes wrong, right? And that was the reason, when we shifted to this PLM platform. And today, the whole thing is completely paperless. So it is not only meets those kind of requirements when we comes to the support, it also takes care of the sustainability. Like, in one of the slides, L&T has said that by 2040, we want to become carbon neutral. The second story is about when we do the construction of warships. So there are several tanks, water tank, fuel tank, a lot of liquids gets taken. And the conventional practice was that we used to fill water to check what is the volume of those tanks. And sometime to ensure that, the pressure tight integrity of those vessels. So we used to do hydraulic pressure test with that water. Now with the kind of platforms which we just discussed, everything could be done in computers, and we have stopped using water at all. So that is the second story which we have been now using continuously, and there's no water wastage which gets done. And the third interesting part is, which we have just implemented, we spoke about virtual twin. So we are building a a huge manufacturing workshop, which is 250-meter long. We have some 34-meter width, 45-meter height, where we are going to do some future submarine platforms. Now, the design of the submarine is still evolving, and equipments are evolving, right? The ecosystem in the country is evolving because we want a higher level of indigenization. So the whole thing has to mature. So the question is, today it's very difficult to predict when our drawings are going to come, in what sequence they are going to come, in what sequence equipment are going to come, and whether equipment are going to come in the shape in which they are expected to come. There are so many challenges. But we have at the same time, that a particular time period in which this is to be done. We have a particular cost in which this platform is to be built. So how do we manage this? And in a conventional way, and we can see a lot of countries who have attempted such platform, they have taken 15, 16 years to do the first one. So we are using this virtual twin to forecast if something changes, to work out those scenario analysis. If my drawing sequence changes or if my equipment changes, how do I manage or mitigate those risks? How do I reduce my waste? Now, when we cut plates, there is a wastage of almost 10 to 12%. But and we are using now this for the smart planning, by which we are trying to reduce that metal waste to almost 5 to 6%. So I think these are the areas in which we have implemented, and there are plethora of opportunities where we can do that. Time is less, otherwise I could have told a lot of stories. So in the next 10 years, as far as defense is concerned, the requirement I just mentioned, the urgency to do things faster at a lesser cost, because we don't have money, we can't afford things. And that's where I think these kind of tools fit very well to redefine the whole supply chain and whole the ecosystem in the defense industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think the technology has a great role to play in this value network to ensure that the supplies are intact and also to sustain over long years. Mr. Dnyanesh, the last question of the day. From the supplier point of view, how do you see the sourcing and supply chain space evolving in coming years?
I think technology is going to play a key role in supporting the supply chain and sustainability. If you look at last 2 decades, automotive industry was mostly driven by emission-driven product development. So there was a definite timelines like Euro 2, Euro 3, Euro 4. And India being an adapter country of Euro norms, we know that what is the technology available outside India, and it was more of a product integration or a derivative product. However, there was a one catch, if you look at particular Indian market, in BS3, entire world was developed their engine or powertrain with common rail fuel system. However, India was the only country in the world who adopted mechanical fuel system to meet the Euro 3 or BS3 norms. So congrats to those engineers who developed that. So this specifies that India need a product which is sustainable for the country. We cannot adapt everything from the world. So that is one. Second, with that, we also need to think about in a long term, because emission-driven product development is going to end somewhere. What next? And for that, we really need to think about very long term. As a R&D organization, we need to think and create a funnel of technology. What is my current product? Maybe next 2 years, I have a definite product development, which I'm going to launch. We need to think about the 5 years, what are the technologies I need to adapt to integrate into the product, and something beyond 5 to 10 years, why not to think about even 15 years? What could be the potential technology or product, those will be needed. Continue those exploration, maybe every year that funnel can change. And more important, with the Indian scenario, the role for the R&D leaders and even support from the sourcing, that 10 to 15 years product in a technology funnel, how do we get a funding? How do we protect the funding from the management as well as the resources, including our engineers, because we have a tendency, what is that guy doing? And there is no output. But adapting the failures even, learning from the failures, protecting those resources, and protecting the funding for long-term funnel, 10 to 15 years, that will be the key for long-term sustainability. And over to that, the tools like 3D experience, right from design, how do we design virtually, how do we validate virtually, so reliability and durability is going to be key. That how do we achieve through the virtual tools instead of going everything physically. So these are my learning from the past.
Thank you. So virtual twin powering the innovation. So that's the key for sustenance for coming years. We have come to the end of the show, and it was a great insightful discussion on this sourcing and supply chain topic today. And as an employee of Dassault Systèmes, I'm also glad to understand that Dassault Systèmes technology is contributing in a way to bring in efficiency in this sourcing and supply chain space. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for this
so much.
insightful discussion.
Thank you.